The clock was nearing midnight when Jake received his last ride request of the night. He had been driving for hours, exhausted and ready to call it quits. But when he glanced at the name on his app and saw that the destination was a luxury hotel downtown, he decided to take it. A few minutes later, he pulled up to the hotel's bright entrance. That's when the back door opened and she stepped in. Sophie. A tight black dress, crossed legs, and an intoxicating perfume filling the car. She slid into the back seat with a dangerous elegance, as if she knew exactly the effect she had. "Good evening," she said, with a smile that felt like an invitation to sin. Jake swallowed hard. "Good evening. Where to?" She bit her lip, her eyes meeting his through the rearview mirror. "Home. But I'm in no rush." Her words hung in the air like static electricity. Jake tried to focus on the road, but he could feel her gaze burning into him. The tension grew with every mile. At a stoplight, he took a chance. "Had a good night?" "It's getting better now." Her tone was pure challenge. Her smile blatant provocation. He knew he should ignore it. But when she slowly ran her fingertips down her own knee, exposing a little more skin, Jake realized this ride was far from ordinary. The ride continued in silence, but it was thick with unspoken promises. Jake tried to keep his focus, but her perfume wrapped around him, making it impossible. On a quieter street, Sophie leaned forward slightly. "Are you always this professional?" Her voice was low, almost a whisper. "I try to be," he answered, keeping his eyes on the road. "What a shame." Her fingers traced along the edge of the seat, barely there, but enough to make Jake's skin prickle. He took a deep breath, gripping the steering wheel tighter. "Are you playing with me?" She laughed softly. "And if I am?" At the next turn, he pulled into a deserted side street. Then he turned to face her, their eyes locking in the rearview mirror. "I should be taking you home," he murmured. Sophie smirked, leaning in a little more. "Or, you could park and enjoy the moment." It happened fast. The seatbelt slid off, their bodies closed the distance. The moment their lips met, it was a collision of repressed hunger and adrenaline. The kiss was hot, intense. Jake's hands found her waist, pulling her closer, while Sophie gasped against his lips, nails grazing his neck. The back seat became dangerous territory. Her legs wrapped around him, their bodies pressing together with urgency. The car felt too small for the fire spreading between them. "You have no idea how long I've wanted this," she whispered, biting his earlobe. Jake's fingers traced up her thigh, slow and deliberate, feeling the heat of her skin. "Then let's not waste any more time." Breaths turned ragged. Kisses deepened into something desperate, primal. Every touch, every muffled moan, sent the temperature soaring. That night, rules were forgotten. The car became a sanctuary of secrecy, where dangerous glances turned into something much more sinful. As the night stretched on, their bodies finally slowed, but the tension still lingered in the air. Sophie ran her fingers through her hair, catching her breath. "Without a doubt, the most interesting ride I've ever had." Jake chuckled, fingers drumming against the steering wheel. "And I thought this was my last trip of the night." She laughed, pressing a soft kiss to his cheek before slipping out of the car. "Maybe on my next ride." And with one last teasing glance, she disappeared into the night, leaving behind nothing but the scent of her perfume and the promise that their game was far from over.